The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome to a special holiday gift guide week here on the Brandon Peters Show. Over the course of the next 3 days, we'll be taking a look at items and special deals that may make a great gift idea for that geeky pop culture family member, loved one, significant other, friend, roommate, coworker, extramarital affair buddy, person that knows a dark secret about you and you're trying to keep quiet, or hey, treat yourself. Each day I'll be joined by a different expert in the field as they will help guide us through these waters. Today, we'll be looking at games. Leading us through the charge is #MyFavoriteGamer and the host of the Literate Gamer podcast, the magnificent Nick Rust.
Thanks for having me. I feel obligated to point out that when you mentioned that I was going to be your resident expert for games on this segment, I thought it would be funny if I tried to do a Steve Irwin impression. And was like, crikey, look at that game. But then I was like, no, my Steve Irwin impression is terrible, so don't do that. Instead, I'm going to do this bit where I explain the joke that I thought about in a meta way that makes it seem funnier, but it's really not.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that one.
We're going with it. You could have come in like,
cool, this one's off. Amazing. We can only go up from here. So
I haven't played a game in 5 years. Yeah.
Really?
But no, not me. No, not me. No.
Okay.
But you could have introduced yourself with that. Like, I don't know why you brought me on here, but all right. I just got a Nintendo 64, but okay.
Yeah, that would have been better.
All right. So you and I would known each other for like what, 3 or 4 years now, I would say, around there.
Yeah. It seems it's been that long.
And you're one of the ultimate trivia chips for my old podcast called Cinema Cavalcade that. While you were never on an episode, you were on the one that never, ever made it to the pod waves, the Attack of the Clones speed read for the live show at PotCon 2018.
Yeah. I got a lot of roles, but of course, I got stuck with Jar Jar because somebody had to do it.
Yeah, it was the best role to have.
Yeah,
but we had you on.
That movie is awful.
We did that. It kind of sort of happened. It was when they had the terrible area for.
I mean, they're all bad.
Yeah.
But that one was especially bad.
It was that cat, like you could hear clanking of the food and stuff. And it's like, all right, but hey, some dude really loved it because we all signed a script at the end of it. You remember?
Like, I don't remember that.
He wanted all our autographs. I was like, Nick, he wants you to sign. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but that you were ultimate trivia for that show, that you were on it but not.
Yeah.
So but it was recorded back then, and you're one of the hosts of Literate Gamer, which
I am,
provides insightful and pretentious criticisms of video games, gamer culture, movie, music, canned meat products, and whatever really. What do you think? So how long has Literate Gamer been around?
Wow. I think it's been 4 years now. Man, that's a long time.
It is
when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just released just past episode 200. I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They're not all full episodes anymore. We used to release weekly for about 1.5 2 years, and I just couldn't do that kind of schedule with the amount of content we were cranking out. So we do 2 full episodes a month now, and then Jonathan does a platformer short in between because I famously hate the entire genre of platformers and I never want to touch another one for the rest of my life. So that's been kind of the approach to the show so far, and it's been working out. When we started, we had this idea of bringing on a lot of authors that gamed to talk about their favorite games while they like talked about their like books and stuff like that. Because full disclosure, my co-host is a self-published author. Um, but
Mr. Jonathan Small.
right, beyond him, not a lot of them are really that interesting. And then we ended up getting better interview because we actually started to be able to punch above our weight class and get some real actual interviews with like real people involved in the industry. So we were like, let's do that when we can. But we don't get to do them all the time. So other than that, we just sit around and talk pretentiously about video games.
There you go. There you go. And does it drop like once a week, or is it just sporadic now?
Yeah, it is a weekly release of Simform.
Gotcha. And what have been some of your favorite?
Say that again. I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. What have been some of your favorite like heights of the show, or memorable episodes, or ones that you really like? Oh yeah, that was peak Literate Gamer right there. That was some of the achievements you've had throughout the history of the show.
My favorite guest of all time. We've had him on twice. We're going to have him on again, hopefully soon. Is Tarn Adams, the creator of Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress is really more of a piece of art than it is a game, because I would argue it's not really that playable. But it is a fantastic thought experiment, and he is an amazing guest. I have never met a less pretentious person in my entire life, who really just wants to talk about making games and dwarfs, and he's a hell of a lot of fun. We got Ken Levine on, which is the guy who created BioShock. That was pretty good. We've had in the tabletop RPG space, because I don't like to limit myself to just video games. We do a lot of video game content just because we can get more mileage per episode on one of those. But we do a lot of tabletop stuff too. We've had Jonathan Tweet. We just had John Harper on, the guy who did Blades in the Dark. I know I'm forgetting some people. We recently got our first voice actress on.
Oh.
Actually, I say that, but she was actually our second voice actress, because we had Michelle Boback on originally, and then we had Cassie Layton on recently. Cassie Layton was the voiced female protagonist of the game Greedfall, which is fantastic. One of my favorite games of the year, last year. Michelle Boback is also a voice actress, but we actually had her on because I was talking to her husband, who is Elias Tufexis, on Twitter. He's a very famous voice actor, and he's been in a lot of games, and I was talking about how much I love Far Cry Primal. And he admitted he had never played Far Cry Primal, but his wife had. And so I invited his wife on the show to talk about the game instead of him, since she actually played it. It was a good
interesting
episode.
Twist.
Yeah. She's a musician too. She's like a session musician.
Okay.
And she does a lot of like multi-genre stuff for different like TV and movie soundtrack stuff. It's pretty cool.
So do you guys do any like Twitch things, or like live playing for people to watch?
No, it's its own like thing.
Like, it's for real gamers, bro.
Well, no, that's not my platform, and so that's not really. I'm not real effective there, because a Twitch, to be a good and effective Twitch streamer, your minimum runtime has got to be like 3 to 5 hours per session.
True.
And you've got to do it with astonishing regularity, like 3 to 5 times a week. And it is just, it's grueling hours, and it's so hard to build an audience, and you've got to like establish this like way of talking and just ways of keeping people engaged as they're watching. And it's like none of that stuff. I was like, maybe I'll try it. And no.
Hey, yeah, it's not every aspect of everything's for everybody, but would you consider like a if Literate Gamer got to it, like having like a special event play with you guys? Or
Yeah, we've thought about doing that in the past. We've just never done it. I've thought about doing charity fundraisers for various causes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had an idea to do one here recently too. I should probably do that before this whole COVID thing like goes away while I've got the time, but we'll
Take advantage of
see.
that pandemic.
Right?
Right. Yeah. And you also, for a short time, I don't know if you're still, I think you're still exploring, but you had the spin-off Literate History.
Yeah, so literate history never really got off the ground. I did 3 different versions of it. And I still haven't been able to find. Now this is me I'm gonna get a little nerd, but you're gonna like this is the thing.
It's kind of allowed here.
Right, you're gonna be able to follow me on this one because you're also a podcaster. Now, the principal problem I've had with literate history is a framing mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
because I am not a historian by trade, and I don't want to do a Dan Carlin. Because he's cool, but I honestly cannot stand him. Like, I can't listen to Dan Carlin for very long. His
Mhm.
stuff goes on forever. I find 2 people way more engaging. I find a dialogue way better than a monologue, because when a monologue approach, especially to something as dry as history, it just drones on and on and on. So I said, okay, if I have to do a monologue, maybe I'll do it live, and maybe I'll do it, more off the cuff. So it sounds more like a cross between like stand-up comedy and like a history lecture. Well, that didn't really work. So I'm back to this dichotomy approach for a dialogue. One of my ideas was to have reoccurring guests on that are stand-up comedians. But the thing about stand-up comedians is they don't know shit about the Russian Revolution or the Soviet Union. So that was going to prove a little difficult for the source material we had to cover.
Right.
So it's still there. I'm still working on it. I will eventually crack this nut, and it will be the history podcast that I have not been able to find so far. And that's why I have made it, because that's what I did with Literate Gamer is I made the game podcast that I wanted to hear and couldn't
Right.
find.
And that's how you do it. That's how you do with podcasting a lot of the time. It's
right.
Make the show you want to hear.
Yep.
And that's basically your best guide to doing that. You learn from ones that you listen to, and you're like, you know what? I would want to hear this. There you go. That's your spin on the show.
Yeah.
And
I think my next approach is I'm going to try and track down an academic with at least a modicum of like, I don't know, radio charisma. Ideally someone who works somewhere in the space that I'm dealing with that season.
Mm-hmm.
And try that. That's my next pitch. I just have to find my expert for season 1.
Gotcha. You're at the point of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks right now.
Yeah, like I've got all these prior attempts recorded at least some extent. It's just they didn't work, so I didn't use them. So yeah, I'll get there eventually.
Right, and yeah, you and I tend to talk about this kind of stuff. We used to back what we call it, like back in the before times. Is that what we call it?
And a long ago.
Long ago, we. You attend Podcast Indie, which I co-manage with Brad Shoemaker, and we have a lot of these kind of chats there, which we used to do once a month, and now you and I haven't seen each other probably since last year.
No, we saw March
right before,
right before, because the sick people came.
Okay.
And I'm an NPR nerd, and I was like, oh, I'm totally going to that. And then, like, literally the next week. Oh, that's
right. That was the last one.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Okay, yeah. That was a good one too.
Yeah, it was. It was a fantastic one.
That was one of the best ones. Yeah, but where we talk stuff, and I want to just like take a second and thank you and Jonathan, your co-host, for being like a nice ear for me and providing some real good advice and encouragement and helping me get over like a certain hump, and being a factor, like giving me confidence to move along and bring this show to life, because you guys were very helpful there. And then, through, messaging each other and stuff with, working me through, getting through this to, end my old show, go to this one.
Yeah.
And I thank you guys so much, because this new show has been just a blast.
Yeah, you're
to
killing
do.
it, man. You're doing
Really.
fantastic.
But I mean, you guys are there's people instrumental behind the scenes in helping the show to come to life. And you were there. I like gave you the track for the theme to listen to.
Oh,
I get
I'm so jealous of that.
I,
It's so good.
so yeah. So there's a lot of people that I don't think people realize it's a factor. I know the show's got my name, it's got my voice, but there's a lot of people that have helped out and helped bring it to life. And you both were of that nature. And so very much a thanks for that. So, and I got you on the show. I've been meaning for years to get you on, and here we are. And so let's keep the spotlight on you though, Nick, as we dive into our gift guide for games this holiday season. I'm gonna lay a disclaimer for my listeners here. Nick is the expert and lead on this. I am not much of a gamer these days. My knowledge is being that of like my kids and their obsession with Roblox, Five Nights at Freddy's, and the Switch games that we might play when I get the time. And I tend to be into retro gaming stuff like the little emulators. So I definitely have lost touch in this arena and am super uncool. So we're going to have Nick take us through here with things, and I might ask things of him that I know from other mediums that happen that might not happen with games. So bear with me, folks, and Nick will show his patience with me as well. So Nick, so first off, are there any like this year special games being released on Black Friday? Are there like any being held off for that day, like be it digital or console games that are like, we're dropping on Black Friday?
No, the game industry as a whole kind of likes to try and avoid Black Friday itself because of the competition.
Gotcha.
Because gamers aren't going to aren't your primary target audience for a Black Friday kind of thing. So no one wants to release on a day when there's not going to be any oxygen left in the room.
Gotcha.
So typically by Black Friday actually is usually the end of the AAA season. So most of AAA have released by Black Friday. We're locked in. All the titles that are going to be available are out. This year is a notable exception though, because Cyberpunk 2077, which is probably the biggest game of this season, has gotten delayed again and isn't coming out till December 10th.
Okay.
So this year is, by all metrics, this year is weird.
Oh yeah.
One, there's a global pandemic. Two, we've got a hardware sale this year. We have new console generations released.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't already have one, you're not getting one.
Right.
As
Yeah.
far as I can tell, they're all gone.
Yeah, because there's the this year the PS5 just as of recording here dropped last week, and then the new Xbox dropped last week, like a couple days before that.
Yep.
And so those are out. There's new games. None of them are going to be on sale.
Nope.
This console's not. The games aren't. They're going to sell out like crazy. You might luck out if you watch websites. You might luck out on a return or a small shipment that comes in, maybe. But yeah, if you didn't get them on launch,
yeah, they're gone. I tried to get one. I was not able to even pre-order one. I missed the pre-order windows because I tried to put all my chips in Sony's basket for my pre-order because they were going to release a limited number of pre-orders to PlayStation Network members. And so I put in for that and I didn't get it. So I didn't get a pre-order. So I was like, on day of release, I was like, I'm going to see what I can do. And it's just been an absolute nightmare because no one is releasing any information about when they're going to do anything. Mm-hmm. Sony was absolutely draconian on their regulations about releasing the PS5. You could not release into retail store space. You had to release it online. And only allowed for in-person pickup at most because they did not want people physically in stores competing. Microsoft didn't care. So you could physically go into a brick and mortar retailer and still pick up a Series X.
Yeah, I had friends picking up PS5s at like 6 a.m. at Best Buy on the day it came out because they scheduled times for people to drive up and get it, which good for Sony for being thoughtful like that.
Yeah, but all the big online releases appear to have been botted up. and so most of us couldn't get one. PlayStation Direct had the best chance because you still had to have a valid PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Network account or Sony ID to get in. So, but even they sold out within 7 minutes of every release window. So, if you don't have one of the new consoles now, you're probably not going to get one until 2021. That's what I'm saying.
Enjoy your old one.
Right?
Buy the version of the game you want for the PS5 and the PS4 version or the Xbox One version.
Now, a lot of games that are releasing in this holiday season, at least the AAAs, are releasing with some kind of cross-generational license. Ubisoft is really good about this. All the Ubisoft releases this season, if you buy the PS4 version, comes with a free PS5 license too.
Okay.
I do believe Call of Duty is like that as well, but I'm not really a Call of Duty player, so
Okay.
I don't know that for certain. I heard there's some bugs with the new I guess it's not next generation anymore, but the next generation version of the Call of Duty client this year.
The current generation version, right?
Right? Right? So yeah.
Cool. Are there any like do you have any like independent distributors or anything that kind of test games that might have specific sales or releases, patch, or any kind of like upgrades that might occur during that time?
Not really. There's not a lot of independent distribution in the video game space. Let me put that with the caveat. Because at the end of the day, most of the time they're getting hoovered up into these online storefronts, be it Steam or PlayStation or whatever. So a lot of the rough edges get filed off. Your best bet to find something interesting there would be if you're a PC game player, GOG.com, Good Old Games.
Okay.
GOG is actually entirely owned by CDPR, which are the people who make Cyberpunk 2077 and Witcher 3. And like their main page is like, if you buy Cyberpunk 2077 through GOG.com, the developers get all of your money. Trying to incentivize people to go buy it there. Now, the good thing about buying it through GOG is that it comes DRM free, because DRM's a big pain in the ass, so you don't have to worry about it if you get it there. But I don't. There might be discounts on CDPR stuff there, but I don't know for certain. Now, another thing to keep in mind this going forward is that we've hit another price point increase. We haven't had one in a long time. In fact, I think it's been 2 console generations since we had a price point increase. So manufacturers' suggested retail price for all new games is no longer $59. It's now $69. So if you still have a PS4, you might want to buy these, the last great AAA games on PS4 to enjoy the free upgrade into PS5. Or Xbox Series X, I guess. Can you tell I'm a Sony loyalist here? Because then, you buy at the lower price point and you still carry that forward. So I still picked up my holiday releases, even though I really want to enjoy them the most on the new generation. I'm just going to deal with longer load times for now until the new generation hits.
So the new graphics stuff better, like load time, a little bit more fluidity in the movements and detail and sharpness, probably.
Yeah, we're not going to see. Well, I don't know. I haven't got my hands on one to really test this out, but we probably won't see big jumps in graphic fidelity for a bit.
And usually when they move on to a new console, they haven't even explored enough of the previous console to,
Right. And you'll usually see the best turnaround in terms of graphics on single-party developers, like Sony's in-house developers. They really know how to make that architecture sing, and their games look absolutely amazing for it. Ghost of Tsushima was released this year and is just absolutely mind-bogglingly beautiful. Even on just a PS4, I cannot wait to see what they can do on PS5. even if they're just going to upscale the game, that's going to be gorgeous.
Which that game,
this is a
I'll
weird
mention, it is on sale at a bunch of places for $39.99 during this.
It is, and it is an absolute steal at that price. It's weird to talk about prices because I don't talk about prices in my normal critiques, but it is absolutely worth it at $39.99. I mean, this is $59 is easily, it's my game of the year. I haven't played Cyberpunk yet. I've played everything else in the slate that's come out that I'm gonna play. Let's be honest. And Cyberpunk is gonna have a real hard sell to beat me for game of the year over Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is just an absolute love letter penned to Akira Kurosawa.
Oh, I would love this game then. Yeah.
You would. It is absolutely phenomenal. And like, here's a weird, interesting aside. So for Thanksgiving, we host Thanksgiving because we got tired of driving everywhere. And our Thanksgiving tradition, my Thanksgiving tradition, let me be clear, is instead of like watching a football game or whatever else people do on Thanksgiving, is we have the traditional Thanksgiving samurai movie.
Heck yeah.
And so every year we watch at least one classic samurai movie as part of the Thanksgiving festivities. And I'm kind of debating just playing Ghost of Tsushima this year since no one else is coming.
And you got the time, yeah.
Right, but I'm still probably going to watch a movie. So,
Gotcha.
you know.
My Thanksgiving tradition is Thanksgiving night I watch the movie Blood Rage, which is the Thanksgiving set slasher movie, because, you know, there's always one for every holiday, so I watched that one. It's pretty fun.
Isn't there a Thanksgiving-based slasher movie with a turkey that kills people? Thanksgiving?
No, though maybe, but there's also Home Sweet Home, which is a really cheap, crappy one that has. If you remember Body by Jake, do you remember that guy from like the late '80s, early '90s? He had a sitcom for a while. He was like one of those. I'm gonna sell you like a shake or look to my fitness stuff, and then
oh god, yeah.
And he was the killer in this movie, and it's from like the early '80s, but that one is a slash movie. But Blood Rage is much better. It's really weird. It's about these twins, and one of them, and when their kids kill someone at a drive-in movie, and the wrong one gets locked up or something, and he breaks out and comes back to this apartment complex. It's funny. It's got some good gore. It's a treat for Thanksgiving, but a lot of people didn't discover it till years ago when it got this really good Blu-ray release, and they finally got a full uncut version of it, because it was mainly known on home video, and it was all sorts of edited up in the US. But we're talking about games.
We are talking about games.
So that's a game that interests me. And then I normally with my time, when I do get to sit down and get a game, I start. I realize I haven't played games in a while, so I have to catch up just to normal stuff, and then I just wander away because time gets taken by other things. Like, I am still playing Breath of the Wild on the Switch. That's one of my games, and I'll play but then I'll get stuck with I'll just play Mega Man on one of my Legends. So, but that's where I'll get. So yeah, we got these new consoles. The only one that remains the Switch that hasn't updated.
Nintendo's is no longer a parity with the other two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're only about halfway through the Switch's life cycle right now, so it would be way too early for them to drop a new one.
Oh yeah. They did the Switch Lite recently, which why?
Yeah. Well, they need that cheaper price point to get it in more kids' hands.
Right. I guess so.
The
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of half expect Nintendo to mess up whatever their next iteration is, because that always seems to be their.
Well, yeah, because they had the Wii and then the Wii U, which was and then the Switch.
Yeah, I mean, they had the SNES and the N64, and say what you will, the N64 was a subpar console because they committed themselves.
They had some great
cartridge-based technology at the time.
Yeah.
It did have some great stuff, but it was all single party. Like there was no really good third party games on the N64.
Right.
So I don't know. They do really well with handheld systems though. So maybe this is the time when they finally are able to just be the. I don't know, man.
Well, I
I
feel
don't
like they've
know.
started
They're
embracing themselves a bit more rather than chasing after the others. I mean, they're more into the interactive, I don't know, physical
yeah.
and and
No, yeah. They're
and
always extremely committed to principal play.
yeah.
So they want to do things that are fun inherently and organically, and they're usually setting trends, they're not following them. So
Hmm.
I say just let them be them for the
Right,
most
yeah.
part.
And I think since at post GameCube, that's where they've been
Yeah.
mostly. But
Man, I
The
missed the
Wii U,
GameCube.
yeah, I had one when college. That was my system. Everybody else had the PS2, and then the Xbox. And
Yeah.
I had the GameCube. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that controller a lot. People were really confused by it, but I'm like, actually, it makes sense with your hands. Like it really
It
does.
does. It was just so hard to adapt anything
Yeah,
to it because it had such specific
yeah.
button.
Like you
I don't
said,
know.
third
Resident Evil
party
4 on the
games.
GameCube is still
Yeah.
one of the best games ever made.
The what? Which one?
Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube.
Oh yeah, Resident Evil. The Resident Evil remake was awesome on there too. I like that quite
Yeah,
a
it
bit.
was. It
Yeah.
was. That was, I think, my first or my second remake of Resident
Mhm.
Evil that I've had, because now I'm up to like 7.
Right. Eternal Darkness, that was a fun one
Oh
for a bit
God,
on there. Yeah.
we have been in uh, talks with Dennis Dyack, the creative genius behind
Hmm.
that game, to try and get him on the show. And so far, he's been relatively reluctant to do it. He has kind of a sordid past with games after Eternal Darkness. It kind of just goes downhill from there.
Mm.
Like it got really bad. Like he was accused of basically embezzlement, sort of taxpayer money from
Oh.
some Canadian game development funds. He got involved in a court case with Unreal where they accused him of using the Unreal assets in his engines, and to the point where his last game got pulled off the shelves because the court said they broke copyright by using Unreal assets in the game.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he's been really hesitant about doing any kind of press game oriented wise, but if I can convince him I just want to talk about Eternal Darkness, I'm still hoping he'll come on. I also loved Two Human, which was the game he did that was really ahead of its time. That unfortunately wasn't really finished.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it would have been amazing. So yeah, who knows?
Gotcha.
Who knows?
Let's look at some of these Black Friday deals going on now. The big one, console wise, we said no consoles were on sale, but there's a Nintendo Switch bundle that all the stores are touting, which is it's the Switch, 3 months of Nintendo Online, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for $300. So that's the gift that kids are gonna have this year.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal, especially if you have younger kids. I mean, that's the fantastic entry into a Switch library. And
I have Mario Kart. I play that one. I know that one.
Right?
It's a fun game. Yeah,
I
know
is.
that
It's
one.
fantastic. It's still got legs underneath it.
It's crazy. They can just keep doing Mario Kart again and again and again, and you're like, yep, still
good.
There. Still good.
The most interesting Black Friday deal I did look, was Watch Dogs Legion. It's actually going to go on sale.
That's a
Best
PS5 game too, right?
It is available PS5. It just came out like 2 weeks ago, and it's half off on Black Friday for $30.
Yeah.
This should be a warning. It's not a fantastic game. I enjoy this game. I enjoy Legion, but a lot of people don't.
Gotcha.
The idea with Legion is there's no main character. Like there's no established character. But you don't build one either. Instead, what the whole Legion shtick is, there's theoretically like 10 million different combinations of NPCs available in the virtual London they have, because this one's set in London, which is super irritating to drive in, by the way, as somebody from North America, specifically, the United States, because I'm constantly driving on the wrong side of the road and I keep getting into the passenger side of the car. But any of the NPCs you encounter in the world are recruitable, if you do enough time and can convince them to join your cause, and then you can play as them.
Okay.
And there's a permadeath mode that you can enable too, which of course I did, where if an agent dies while they're out on a mission, they just stay dead. So if your super cool hitman guy or your spy dies, they're just not part of your team anymore.
Okay.
Now it's a great concept. It's got a decent amount of content. It just needed more time in the oven, because what they're going for here is an emergent gameplay when the natural organic mechanisms of your game, when they just start chugging on their own, they create really interesting narrative surfaces where you can kind of like fill in the dots, or you can just kind of witness and explore and see how interesting that is. They're doing this really well with some of what they're doing here, because all of these people have other NPCs in the world that they're connected to. And sometimes if somebody is hard to convince, you will have to go to their friends or their family and convince those people first to make your actual target easier to recruit. And all of these people have schedules where they wander around the world and they go to locations doing stuff, and they theoretically have agendas of things they want to do. And I love it. It's really interesting, and it's really wide. Unfortunately, it's a little shallow and it starts to get repetitive.
Okay.
This game really needed more time, and they really needed to add more depth to this emergent approach. It's so labor intensive because it's so much stuff to build in, so it doesn't feel old and stale. However, at $30, I can't argue. Like that's totally worth it. Like if you haven't picked it up, give it a shot. Like I love Ubisoft games. Watch Dogs is probably my least favorite franchise of theirs, which is a little weird because the Watch Dogs logo is basically a six-pointed star that's drawn with one line. That's called a unicursal hexagram, and I have that tattooed on my arm.
Oh.
And so one of the jokes is people think that I'm just this huge Watch Dogs fan, that I went out and got a tattoo of their logo. And I'm like, no, I didn't. It's just but now I'm like, okay, I'm kind of a Watch Dogs fan, I guess. This one was good. I think 2 is better, but this one's good. It's interesting. And I'm really a big fan of novelty in my gameplay experiences. As I get older, I get a little jaded. And so when a AAA is willing to do something experimental or to try something refreshing, I really want to reward that. And even if it's not perfect, I think there's plenty of room for them to develop. And I have to say this with a giant caveat, because there's an online mode for this game that hasn't even been released yet. So I have no idea what that's going to look like.
Gotcha.
That could be amazing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you won't know what it is either at the time when the sale happens, because online doesn't come until December.
Oh, okay. But you can prep for 30
Right.
bucks.
I've been waiting to talk about this game. So I'm really glad I found an excuse to talk about it here, because I can't talk about it on my podcast until online comes out, because I feel like I'll only be talking about half the game.
You could do 2 parts.
Right? Oh, yeah, I could. I ended up doing 2 parts on Ghost of Tsushima, because I didn't even know that there was going to be an online version of that game, I think, when we recorded the first take on the single player experience. And then they surprised us all, and they're like, surprise, there's a co-op mode coming. And we're like, okay, another episode.
Boom.
Right? That's the magic of game podcasting.
Yeah, there you go. Let's take a look at, see, I got Target on my list first with these Black Friday games. And they have, looks like they're just kind of throwing general categories here. There wasn't any really big doorbusters. I mean, they have, well, it said Ghost of Tsushima, Watch Dogs Legion is $39.99. They have Crash Bandicoot 4 for this $39.99, Luigi's Mansion, Mario U Deluxe, and Mario Maker 2 for $39.99. But most of there's like 30 games, $29.99. Xbox, or over 50 games, $24.99. Over 60 games, $14.99. Over 50 games, $9.99. And age and quality is probably going into those prices,
right,
with the games.
But since you brought up Target, Target's interesting as far as a retailer goes. So let's talk about that a bit. Now, Target recently invested pretty heavily into the board game space, way more than any other brick and mortar retailer did.
Right. They've got a 50% off going for that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and whoever their buyer is for their board game section is fantastic. They have made some really amazing choices, and honestly, I think they're really pushing the industry um, forward, and they're making a lot of these really good board games much more broadly available.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
best example of this is actually available right now on the shelves at Target. There's this giant juggernaut of a board game called Gloomhaven, and it's the price tag on this thing is about 100 to 120 bucks, and it comes with a whole bunch of miniatures, and you can play a whole bunch of different classes, and there's a whole bunch of different campaigns to do. It's an amazing experience. It's awesome. It's totally overwhelming for most people. But Target ended up, I think, I don't know if they did this specifically for Target. I see it is available other places now, but I think initially it was only at Target.
Mm-hmm.
Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is $50 and is available on the shelves at Target as I speak. And it's basically a real stripped down version of Gloomhaven, where it's like one campaign, 4 classes, and they've cut down they did a lot of quality of life improvements with the record keeping and the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And it's fantastic. Like if you've got somebody that's really into board games and they haven't played this yet, or somebody that might want to get into more advanced board games, this is the way to go. Like you got to do that. And another shout out for Target in the sense that they're carrying the D&D starter sets.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a fantastic idea.
The back wall of the toy section is literally games. And I'll echo what you said, because I've noticed going through there, and I'm a light tabletop gamer. I don't get to play as much as I'd like to. But they display them in a good way that they look interesting. You see, and they point out that stuff is new or maybe a result of a Kickstarter. They tend to point out where they come from as well, not just like here's a game, just go play. But they have a section with the D&D stuff. They have just it looks fun. And they're just shelves with games, but the way they've ordered them makes it look like, what am I gonna pick? Like it looks really attractive, and they've done a really good job between really commercial games and these little independent and startup games that that a big retailer would invest in that.
I still can't get over the fact they're doing a real fantastic job with all this like introductory level kind of new board game stuff, especially like European stuff that's coming out. They're getting almost all of it, and it's like this. It's great. Like I can see a real positive downstream influence if Target is willing to absorb a lot of the shelf space for this introductory concept to build an entire population of board gamers that will then be able to go out and support their local game stores, where you can find the meatier, denser, thicker, more substantial games out there, with regularity, so that they don't have to use their shelf space trying to convince random people to come in off the street to start this hobby. So if they can start them at a giant brick and mortar, then yes, let's do that. And anything that supports tabletop role-playing games, because you will never believe how thin the margin or the return on investment that those games make. I cannot. Yes, please support more Dungeons and Dragons, even if it's just Dungeons and Dragons. It's the elephant in the room. Right. Everyone starts there for a reason, so that's fine. We'll just get me more D&D players, because in 10 years those D&D players will get into some weird stuff. So
or become creators of the weird stuff, which is
right.
Always great. Yeah, that's a source of creativity. Like people come like from playing that. They create, books, movies, TV, like all that stuff. Games come from.
And as a parent, like D&D has been amazing. Like I can't think of a better way to actively try to teach like creativity and imagination, but also like careful reading of rules and regulations and things like that. And so there's no downside for the most part. I mean, every group of 12-year-olds is going to turn into a bunch of murder hobos when they play D&D, but we all did it. It's just part of the process.
It's a rite of passage.
Right?
Rite of passage. All right. So yeah, Target, just any notable sale games that you'd pick over at Target before we move on to
the Spider-Man one is probably pretty good. I don't know how that works in. They just redid. This is the Sony exclusive PlayStation one. They just redid it for PlayStation 5 with the Miles Morales stuff.
Yeah.
I think you can get that as DLC to plug into if you already own the previous game.
Okay.
So this could be a pretty easy way to get in cheap.
All right.
There. But yeah, I mean, usually by the time it hits a sale price that attractive at a big box store, you already know what you're looking for.
Right. There's a lot
works for you. So.
A lot of the sports games that are going to get replaced in at some point next year. That's where they tack them off. Comes in there, but there's a lot of titles that float around the same prices across these stores as well. That you'll see. Like Last of Us Part 2, that's $30 pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
I've seen. And the Spider-Man game is $20. So we go on to Best Buy here. Is they similar sales, and Target did have, let me see, did they, oh no, that was a different place. But they had a lot of the Avengers game is $30 there.
Stay away from it.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, Outer Worlds. And I said just lots of sports games. Doom Eternal's $20. Red Dead Redemption 2. So it's like games that have been out, like $9.99. Gods of War, MLB The Show 20. So definitely some old stuff. They did seem to make more of their stuff visible through their Black Friday ad. Target was just like, all this, and here's a couple of them, but Best Buy was more specific with what's on sale.
Yeah, it's a little more niche, but Best Buy has a deal on Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 is this character-driven Japanese RPG that historically Persona has been a very niche kind of thing, but Persona 5 has been a lot more popular than any other entries were, and deservedly so. It's an amazing game. Royal is the Persona 5 base game with a bunch of additional content, and generally with a new release like this, they make some quality of life improvements. I haven't actually played Royal though, so I don't know what kind of quality of life improvements they've made in this one, but they have historically in the past. And at $20, like, you need to play Persona 5 just to see if you like it, because it's that cool. Like, it's fantastic. It is amazing. It is an excellent argument for games as art. So at $20, just do it. Just do it.
And I did notice one thing Best Buy had that they were showing off of the others is they had the couple VR games. They had Iron Man VR.
Oh man, VR, yeah.
Everybody Golf VR and Batman Arkham VR for $9.99. The Iron Man and the Golf for $20 each. But I didn't see those advertised much anywhere else for the VR.
Yeah, I wondered if you're going to bring up VR. VR is a bit of a difficult nut to crack right now, because you're kind of locked into what you already own when it comes to VR. There's no full-on self-enclosed VR system yet, really. So do you have a PC or like a computer that's beefy enough to run a VR helmet? Or do you have a PlayStation so you can get the PlayStation VR? The most attractive headset in the hardware space going into this holiday season is going to be the Oculus. I think their cheapest set comes in at about $200, but this has a big caveat on it as well. In my day-to-day job, I'm kind of very concerned about privacy. And Oculus has now made a Facebook account absolutely required for using their VR headset, which means that Facebook is going to have all of your gameplay data available to it. in the VR. So everything that you do with that VR is they're gonna have access to everything. They said they weren't gonna do this when they bought Oculus. They apparently changed their minds. Is your privacy worth enough to you to pay, theoretically up to double for a VR headset? I don't know. I'm not buying an Oculus. So that's what I gotta say about that. VR's I like VR. VR is very interesting, but I haven't seen I haven't seen that the game that really makes the argument for the establishment as a new genre. Resident Evil 7 comes close. I've heard good things about Alex. I haven't played it. I've seen some really interesting, basically tech demos or concept pieces when it comes to VR, but it's still not something that I'd be willing to do on a day-to-day basis for everyday gaming.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just too much of an apparatus. You got to put on the headset and you got to get the hand, and everybody looks kind of stupid when they're playing VR. So I think that's actually part of it from a social perspective, is that none of us wants to look stupid playing games.
Gotcha.
Although we already do.
You mentioned Resident Evil. Best Buy does have Resident Evil 2 and 3 for the PS4 for $14.99.
Oh, those are good. Those are fantastic remakes. Capcom has been really nailing it in the past couple of years. They were not doing well for a bit. I mean, they had some. The Monster Hunter team has always been fantastic, but they really let them off the chain with Monster Hunter World, and that is just paying absolute dividends hand over fist. And I cannot wait to see what that team is capable of doing in the future. If you haven't played Monster Hunter World yet, it's gonna be on sale. Get it. It's amazing, and there's been so much additional content they've released for it, and most of it's been for free. Iceborne you do have to pay for the Iceborne expansion, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I have like 500 hours in Monster Hunter World. So yeah.
Gotcha. Moving on to quickly, Walmart. They have Switch games for $30, $28 sports games for all systems, and then many titles for $15, $20, $25, and $30. And they are the usual suspects we've been going over so far here. So that's Walmart. Place to check if they're out of what you're looking for somewhere else. And GameStop, they've got doorbusters. A lot of places have been early Black Fridaying this year because I think they know the traffic's not going to be there, and they get as much as you can. So there's not a lot of huge doorbuster things, and there's stuff just you can go right now and buy things. But they got the Watch Dogs Legion there for $32.99. That Avengers game you said to watch out for might not be worth the $26.99 they have.
No, it is not. That game is collapsing on itself like a neutron star, and it's not worth it. It's bad. I don't know from direct experience because everything I've heard has been pretty bad.
Gotcha. Mortal Kombat 11, $26.99, and Star Wars Squadron, $16.99. Those are their doorbusters. The remainder of stuff is a bit of an up and down, either slightly better deal or slightly worse than the other places. And they too have the Mario Kart bundle for the Switch and 50% off Switch games. And
I will say Star Wars Squadron is actually a really good game. If it's primarily an arcade based Star Fighter experience. So it's not like a full-on flight sim. It's much more, it's much more interesting for them. Let's be honest, than a true flight sim experience. But it's a good, solid game, and I've heard absolutely fantastic things about the multiplayer. So if that at all appeals to you, that's definitely worth the price of admission right there.
Gotcha. Otherwise, also last year's Jedi Fallen Order, that is on sale. That's on sale across the board. At places, so you can probably pick that one up cheap if you don't have it, or you have a loved one that likes Star Wars and hasn't played it yet. And the one thing that GameStop has above the others, since they sell pre-owned titles, you have a buy two get two free for old system used games. So we're talking like the Wii, We're talking the PS3, stuff like that. And they have a buy two, get one free for the modern systems used games, which probably aren't going to be the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5. But
Yeah, there's just not going to be the used inventory for those. So,
yeah. Lastly, I have Costco, which the only notable thing there is they have a Switch bundle. It is not $300. It does not come with a game. It's $369, but comes with an additional wireless controller, which is not a Joy-Con, just a wireless controller, and they think it's worth $69 more dollars.
I disagree strongly.
Which you can take the Joy-Con if you want and use them as two for
Right.
Mario Kart if you're going to hold off. So just so
Right.
you know, while it looks like one, it is two. But I was like, what? That Costco, you're supposed to be the deal.
Right.
or $369 and you get 3 games.
Right.
And the controller, but no, this is so they're hoping, I'm guessing, that those Black Friday bundles sell out and people have to go to Costco and get that one. And they're gonna
guess
make this $69. But Switches sell out here and there all the time. When the pandemic started, they were gone. They were gone. And a lot of people bought those Switch Lights because that was the only thing left.
Right. And also, like, Animal Crossing had the absolute best launch date in history, because they were like, here's an idyllic pastoral virtual life that you can enjoy while you're locked into the, boring dystopia that is your real life, while you're, trying to hide from a pandemic ravaging the earth. And everyone was like, yay, I want to feel good. Let's go play Animal Crossing. I mean, we spent a month doing that here. So
gotcha. Yeah, that's it for the Black Friday. Now, Nick, before we wrap this up, give me 5 games that, regardless of the time of year, regardless of if they're out or not yet, at least hopefully before holiday gift giving time, whether it be Hanukkah or Christmas or whatever one you're celebrating, 5 games that you just think these work as a great gift, no matter what the occasion.
Sure. I think Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be. That's going to be probably the game of the year across the board for most people. It's definitely the most anticipated game this year. Beyond that, since I haven't actually, seen it or experienced it yet, I would definitely say Ghost of Tsushima. Unfortunately, this is a console exclusive for PlayStation because it's one of Sony's...
I'm sure we have PlayStation listeners.
Right, but I mean, if you're an Xbox player or a PC player, that's just not going to be an option for you. It will never come out for any other format. Apparently I'm an Ubisoft nerd. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I just put in some more hours on that before we started recording this. And I got to say, I really love Valhalla. Like, Valhalla might be my second favorite Assassin's Creed game. It's really good. They've really fixed a lot of the problems from a gameplay perspective that has plagued this franchise for a while, and has been especially bad during this reboot season, because we're basically 3 games into the reboot of the franchise, or the soft reboot of the franchise, where they were like, you know what, maybe we should stop just turning out shit every year. Like, maybe we should make these games playable before we release them. And then we went off from a yearly schedule to biannual schedule, which has done nothing but made much better games, but they've still had their problems. Valhalla fixes almost all of those. But unfortunately, now it's gotten to the part where, honestly, the things that make an Assassin's Creed game, the Assassin's Creediness of it, if you will, are kind of getting in the game's way. Like, I'm kind of tired of this Assassin versus Templar dynamic. It doesn't fit everywhere. Like, it fits for a game about the Crusades because that made sense. It doesn't really make sense in 9th century Britain. It just doesn't do it. Like 10th century Britain, whatever. It doesn't really work there. And so this overarching meta plot is like this albatross on this franchise's neck now. And I really wish they would just get over it and just be like, you know what? We're just going to make very loosely thematically linked games that are all open world and historically based. And everyone will go, cool. We don't have to keep all of this ridiculous lore in our heads about who the Assassins and Templars are shagging now and what they're doing about it. Beyond that, I did enjoy Watch Dogs Legion. It may not be everybody's cup of tea. I definitely think it's worth trying out. And for my dark horse pick, I'm going to go with Genshin Impact, which is a weird choice to make for a holiday gift segment because it's free to play. But it is crazy popular. I'm going to say this with another caveat because apparently I'm using that word a lot this episode. But I do have some very serious privacy concerns about this game's PC client. The PC client seems to install a rootkit that accesses your kernel even after you try to uninstall it. So I cannot recommend that you play this on PC. However, something that's more hardened structurally, like a PlayStation or a console, give it a go. It's actually pretty fun. The core gameplay loop in this is way more fun than it deserves to be. And I kind of dismissively call it the Chinese Zelda or the Chinese Breath of the Wild, because that's basically what the core gameplay loop is. It's very much Breath of the Wild, but it does have this free-to-play grind aspect to it at the back end. I've done a fair amount with it. Jonathan is hideously addicted. So there's some merit to the game. It is genuinely fun and it is interesting. And it's definitely one of the best free-to-play games that I've played in a long time. So yeah, that's my list.
That's your list. All right. Well, that'll wrap us up for this gaming edition of the Holiday Gift Guide. Thank you, Nick, so much. I appreciate your picks, your advice, and I'm sure my listeners have. And it's been a real treat having you on the show. So let everybody know where they can keep up with you and the adventures of Literate Gamer.
Yeah, you can find our podcast basically everywhere. If you can't find it on whatever it is your preferred podcast thing, like I think one of the platforms, our RSS feed actually broke, and I never went back to fix it. I think I emailed them at one point and I was like, hey, this is broken. They're like, no, it's right. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's mine. But I don't think that went anywhere. Honestly, most of my traffic comes through Apple Podcasts. So
that's everybody.
Right? Yep. That's
they want to tell you Spotify is popular, but
I've seen my Spotify numbers. They're not bad. But honestly, I think Spotify might be my third highest.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, it's one of the better ones, but I get a lot of Stitcher listeners too.
I get almost no Stitcher listeners anymore. I used to get a lot, although I don't know that I've checked in a while. But I kind of stopped worrying about Stitcher early in the game.
Gotcha.
I was just like, I'm getting by on
I never listened to anything on it, but
right.
But I know people do. It's like, okay.
But you can find us online at literategamer.com. It is a production of Octopus Park, so you can also find us at octopuspark.com. I tweet on occasion at Literate Gamer on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook if you want to, but I am like criminally bad at social media engagement, in particular Facebook usage. And I like to say it's for philosophical reasons and not because I'm lazy. So, yeah. I don't know where else you'd want to find us, but
Nick's address is no.
Yeah, let's not do that. Just in case. I'm gonna leave. No, I'm kidding.
Gotcha. I got all I needed. No.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. My written work's on whysoblue.com. The Brandon Peters Show returns tomorrow with guest Stephanie Crawford from A House of a Reasonable Amount of Horrors and a frequent guest on the Just the Disc podcast as we shift the gift guide to Blu-rays. Until then, remember to keep the positivity in your online holiday gift guide discussions.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at thebrandonpetershow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail@thebrandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.